Welcome to the REI Foundation Podcast, where we cover all the steps and strategies to make your real estate dreams a reality. Now your hosts, Jason and Peely.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again to the REI Foundation Podcast with Jason and Peely. Today we have the illustrious Danny Johnson.
Hello. Hey, guys. I don't think I've ever been introduced as illustrious, so that's okay.
It's my big word for the day.
Yeah, I was trying
I'm
to
going to look it up too. I'm not exactly
sure. I guess that hopefully is great.
It's
right?
a good.
Okay.
I was going to use sparkly, but I thought illustrious might be better.
Okay.
No, it's nice.
I will say, well chosen then. Well chosen.
Awesome. Well, Danny, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being on the show. And Danny saw that we are actually in New Jersey, but we have the San Antonio map on right behind us. A little jealous of where Danny is, which is actually San Antonio, Texas. So thank you so much for being on the show. And just if you want, would you give us a little brief background on yourself?
Sure. So this goes back so long now. It's like 14 years, I think.
Amazing.
But anyway, my father he was a contractor when I was a kid and ended up working with a real estate investor here in town and was doing the fix up on the houses for him. And, he started having back trouble and different things. So he was working different jobs and wanted to come back and learn how to do the flipping from the guy he had been working for. And, at that time I graduated college, I was working for a defense contractor as a software developer. And I was in an office called a SCIF. It was like top secret clearance and all that kind of stuff. And like no natural light, no windows or anything. And I couldn't have my cell phone and all that kind of stuff. And I was just doing this work that I thought would be fun, but it wasn't. It's like repetitive coding stuff. And as a developer, usually we like to be creative and tackle these different problems and come up with solutions for things. But this was like basically just like, doing the same work over and over again. And so it was getting to me. And then plus I love the people I worked with in that office, but there were certain things that just drove me nuts. And one of them was, for some reason, they would listen to one song over and over about 1,000 times. And it was that if I would walk 5,000 miles or whatever song, the Proclaimers or whoever that is. And man, I don't know. I was like, is this not driving anybody else crazy? Like I would have to put my headphones on and
500
it was just like noise, I guess. Yeah. But I don't want to hear that song ever again. But, so I was doing that and I wasn't really, thrilled with what I was doing. And at that time, my dad had started doing the house flipping and every time I would talk to him, he would just be so excited and thrilled, and I'd never seen him like this before. And he had been entrepreneurial before. He had different stores and stuff like that he had tried to do, but nothing ever really worked out. And so this was the first thing that he really like took off with, and it just really worked out well. And I saw how much fun he was having. He was getting to drive around all day long and do these deals and talk about these deals. He was making good money and everything. And I was like, man, I want to do that. I just feel like that's what I want to do. And so we started, my wife and I, Melissa, started, learning about it and listening to Rohn over and over in the car, the CDs that we had, and got to the point where the kids, it was driving them nuts, like hearing. So that's the thing I repeated.
These days, so are we at that point? We have to explain to other people, all the young.
Oh, right, yeah. The CD, this disc, it's called compact disc. No, but and I'm surprised still that cars still come, with
the compact.
And I've even seen new cars with tape. Like cassette tape players, I think. And it's crazy. It's like, I think it'd be more expensive to put that in than just to have like an auxiliary jack or Bluetooth, right?
That's right.
But not to get too sidetracked on the technology.
We love tangents here.
Yeah. It's like, have you seen that movie Wanderlust?
No.
With Paul Rudd?
No.
Oh, they ended up like,
amazing.
Lost or something and found this hippie commune. And the guy that runs it was talking about like how Paul Rudd was into all this technology. And he's like, you with your Walkmans and your VHS tapes, like all this stuff that was completely dated. It's hilarious when you watch it. I don't think I'm doing it justice.
Having to like rewind the cassette tapes with your finger.
Oh yeah. Or they leave them on your dash.
One song.
Yeah.
Or like if you leave them on your dashboard and they
melt
and warp and sound funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about cassette tapes. More about real estate.
So we were getting into that and doing, part-time. So it was evenings and weekends. And, it took, I think 6 or 9 months to get our first deal, through when we were driving for dollars, sending postcards to people and putting up bandit signs. And that's how we got our first deal. But it took a long time, and it was kind of frustrating. It was hard for me too, because I couldn't take those calls where I work. So I had to return calls as soon as I can. And it was kind of hard, because the market was starting to heat up pretty good too back then, because it was 2003, 2004, so it was getting pretty hot and competitive. But we got that deal, and we started. The next deal came maybe within 2 weeks or a month after that. So it was like really quick, and it was like building momentum, because all of a sudden, like, we believed we could do it, right? It's because we got one. It's like getting over that first deal hurdle is so hard for so many people. But after that, it seems like they just start coming after that, and like the next deals. But we were still part-time for about 3 years. And so I was leaving lunch breaks, checking on rehab jobs and figuring all that out, and like the first, I think I'm spending way too long on this, but the first, the first house rehab that we did was pretty simple. The second one was a burnout. So there was like fire damage.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I don't even know where to begin on this. But while I was looking at the house to make an offer, a contractor stopped by and was like, "Is this your house?" And I said, "Well, I'm trying to make it be my house, so give me a bid, and he said, "Yeah, we could do this." And he gave me a bid that was incredible. And, he did the job. And I learned real quick on that job to make sure that we tell them what materials we want to use.
Got it.
Because all the fixtures, and we didn't say anything. He just said he put new ones in, and, we got the ugliest of the ugliest. I don't even know where he got this stuff from. So we learned a lot, but thankfully it all worked out. He did a good job, and, the house sold and everything. But we were part-time for about 3 years, and it took forever. It was hard for me to let go of the job. It just was like, we were doing well, but I was so worried about being consistent once we quit, and, Melissa, we worked at the same place, and she talked to me one day. She said, "Hey, your manager was telling me that they're going to let you go. And, he's going to fight real hard to keep you on and stuff." And she thought I would be all, worried about it. But I was like, no, that's what I need. Like, I need somebody to kick me out of this so I can just go full time and just do it, And so it was actually a blessing, and it worked out well, where they did let me go, and I got to be full time. And it wasn't too long after that she quit and joined me. So
nice.
And that was like, what, 2005, I think.
Wow. Yeah. See, I mean, that's the kind of motivation that we're trying to go for. Like how you got over that fear factor. And you said it perfectly. People have the hardest time getting over that first step.
Or just getting to that first deal. And that's been a big emphasis on the REI Foundation podcast, is that we want to be able to help people achieve that first one, because we know that it does create that steamroll effect. Yeah. And so for you, just going out there, taking action, just sending mailers, driving for dollars, putting up bandit signs, and then taking calls, off on your off hours and everything else, it just shows that you can do it. Especially, you had everything pushing against you. You're not allowed to probably have your phone on like 10 hours a day or 9 hours a day, whatever it is. And then the same part, you're still finding ways.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I was listening to a different podcast this morning, and it was a different industry, but I think it relates as far as when people listening to podcasts like ours and yours, and, they hear about everybody's success. And like just now, I just told a story that spanned 3 years, but it's told so quickly, and it seems like so easy. Even if you hear somebody saying it took this many months and the next one's real quick, it still seems easy, right? Like it seems like it happened quick. Yeah. And I think people see that all the time. And so they underestimate what it really takes, right? They think, well, it seems so easy for them, but I'm finding all these, like I sent out 500 mailers and got one call and they weren't interested. Does this really work? And, not seeing that, you send out 500 mailers, doesn't work. So you tweak it and send again. And then you keep trying and hoping. And, the part that you don't hear about, right? Like, the keeping going. And even though it seems like you're throwing money down a black hole, you're not, you're building momentum. And, somebody that held on to that first one didn't call you within a couple of weeks of mailing it out, but calls you 2 years later and says, "I got that from you and I kept it. And now I want to sell my house." It's pretty cool. But, and then the other part is like the mindset, right? So, And I think that's why it's an addition of the compound effect of your marketing, right? Or deal searching. Some people hold on to your postcards or whatever. Maybe they need to see your message several times. But then also, the faith and the realization that you can do it, that there are people that want to sell to, is the mindset shift, right? Yeah. And I think it helped us knowing that my dad was doing it. So it's like I knew it was possible. And I knew what we were doing could get us to do because I saw my dad do it. Right. And so I had that behind us too, which helped tremendously. But then people have these podcasts now, and it's like you can see other people and it's not, of trying not to be like, oh man, they had it easy, lucky them. It's like, wow, they did it. I can do it too. And, and then having it happen themselves. And that's when it starts really building, right? It's because they saw it happen. They know it can happen again.
Yeah.
And they go into the...
Well, just to quote what you just said, all of a sudden we believed we could do it. Yeah. I mean, that's the best quote. And you said it. It's like you said, it's the mind shift. I mean, delve a little bit more into that. Like how'd you get to that mind shift, and you're talking 2003. So you've been doing this, like you said, for 14 years. That's longevity. Talk a little bit more about that.
So the mindset, yeah. So in addition with all this, like learning, being an entrepreneur, having a business, and a lot of it has to do with like working on yourself, right? I love Jim Rohn. He just has the best material for motivation and mindset and all that kind of stuff. He was a business philosopher, and he's got a lot of materials out there, and he passed, I don't know how many years ago, but excellent stuff, and still very relevant today for mindset. But he would talk about, and I think he was the one that mentioned something about whenever, you see people that win the lottery and it's not that long that they end up losing all of it. And the reason is, and then they end up in debt and everything. And the reason is they never became the person it took to build that kind of wealth.
Yeah, it's great.
And so they didn't know how to handle it, manage it, all that kind of stuff. So you have to become that person to be able to grow that business. And so you got to work on yourself. You don't just work on your business, you work on yourself and your mindset and issues that you've got and all that kind of stuff. You get out of your comfort zone. And so I think, everybody should learn how to flip houses and learn the nuts and bolts and all that kind of stuff, but also work on yourself and work on your mindset and motivation and all that kind of stuff. So Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins, all those guys can show you how to better do it than I can, I think. But
I don't know, you're on a good path of showing us how to do it.
Well, it's amazing what you're saying, because that you're 100% right. Is one of the biggest things you hear from people is just that fear of failure, that they will create just so many reasons why, if they even try to find a house, that the entire town's going to burn down, or someone's going to come and take their dog or something, something crazy. It's like the most insane things, but they never really happen. But they create all these blocks for them just from getting to that first deal. And, and that's just to have your mind right. That just say, well, I'm just going to take actionable steps. The first step is I'm going to get in the car. I'm going to go around and see houses that maybe, have some shutters falling off, or the roof hasn't been done, or hasn't mowed the lawn. Step number one. Or I'm going to go put some signs out, and then, people start calling. Okay, well, I got to pick up the phone or call them back. So, that's step two. Okay, so there's another step. Now nothing's burned down, nothing's happened. We're just taking these small little steps, and it's building. You
absolutely.
15 years down the road now, and you look back at that, just from you driving around to what you've put together now, it's a snowball. And it's incredible.
Yeah, no, I think that point is huge. What you just said is the biggest thing keeping a lot of people back, is they're looking at the whole path, right? They're hearing all these things, these different techniques for investing, and they feel like they've got to understand all of it, or that they need to know what's going to happen, how they can handle the situation that comes up on title for a property they're buying, before they ever go out there and even talk to anybody about buying their house. It's that whole fear of all this unknowns. And like you said, hey, don't stress out about all that stuff. Like, what does that even matter until you get to the part where you need to worry about that? Like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about step 10 unless you get to take step 1 and 2 first.
Yeah.
Right. And the analogy I heard, I wish I knew who said this. But it was if I were to drive from San Antonio to Chicago at night, I don't need to illuminate the entire path to Chicago.
Nice. Like
my car illuminates far enough ahead for me to drive to that spot, and then it keeps going. And that's the way to look at it. So it's I think it's a good thing. And like you said, like, don't stress about all that stuff. Just go out and drive around. You don't have to make an offer on a house today, but just go and look for houses that are beat up and write down the address and just let that get you excited and get going to contact people. And then I tell people whenever, because motivated sell marketing, like talking with sellers was super scary to me too at first. Like I was so scared those first appointments. Like, what if they ask me something I don't know? And I seem, I'm saying I'm going to buy your house fast and all this stuff. And I'm scared to death like that. You're going to ask me something that I should know, but I don't know. But after you do it and you speak to a lot of people, I think they appreciate the fact that you're not a super hardcore salesman or something and you're nervous. They're going to actually appreciate that. And it's actually helpful. And to know that, if you don't know something, admit to it, and people respect that.
Yeah,
say, I'm going to need to find out. Let me talk to the title company and I'll call you once I find an answer, is the absolute best thing to do. And, so I don't know.
Be real, be human. I mean, that's really key when it comes to sales.
And most of these sellers, when you're going in their house, it's not like they know the whole path either. So they're asking your questions. They're just as nervous or even more nervous than you, because depending on the situation, most of them they've called you for a reason. They need help. They need something. And ideally they're in a bad spot and they're hoping that you can possibly be that solution. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as far as mindset, one thing that I did think about too, that I wanted to talk about that I think helps some people is what Tony Robbins talks about, is asking the right questions.
Yeah, that's good.
And where that makes sense in trying to get into flipping houses and expand your flipping houses business and scaling it. Everything is that, things will always come up, right? Everybody has problems. Like whenever you're doing something different, you're going to run into challenges, and it's how you respond to those challenges. And, we all have them. And the people that do better are the people that end up, are capable of asking the right questions around those challenges. So it's like, what's the benefit of this challenge? What am I supposed to learn because this happened? And asking that right question. So, and this gets into like stoicism and all that kind of stuff. I love all that stuff, like Marcus Aurelius and, like all the things about obstacles, the way and all that kind of stuff. So it's like you're asking God or the universe for a different life. You're going to have these things that happen to you that you're going to be like, why is this happening to me? This is painful. This is scary. Why is this happening to me? Well, it's happening to you because you asked for something better. And in order to get that, you've got to grow as a person, overcome that, and you'll be there. But, like sometimes those problems are like right there and you can't see that. And then, so it's like looking for that benefit in that problem or why that happened to you and what you need to learn from it. And that's asking the right question, right? So instead of saying, why is this happening to me? Why are people so mean to me? Or why did that person steal my contract? Or, it's like, how can I avoid this next time? Or what's the lesson here? Like, what is this trying to get me to realize and learn out of this so that I can move on and grow and get to where I'm asking to be, right? So,
yeah, that's great.
Wow.
We should probably steer that into, so you've now been on this path, fast forward us. Where has your business evolved to? And you're in San Antonio. I presume that you've always been in San Antonio and this is your market. Where are you focusing today? And how is this snowball really built to where you are today?
Okay. So we didn't grow super big right away. And we always wanted to keep it just my wife and I. And
yeah.
I think we had the wrong reasons for wanting that and some what's the right word for it? But, we didn't want to be responsible for employees, and we wanted to be able to turn the business off whenever we wanted to and go on vacation for a long time and stuff like that. And so up until about maybe 3 years ago, maybe a little bit more, it was just us. And, obviously we had contract crews, we had a realtor helping us sell a property and stuff like that, but we didn't have anybody on our team, doing marketing, taking calls, going to appointments or checking on rehabs. It was us, it was me and her. And so during that time, we've got 5 kids and during that time, while we've been in this business, 2 of them were born and we've raised them. And Weston's 5 now and Sophie's 9, but, the younger 2. And so we've had a lot of things to deal with that and everything and not growing too fast. But we felt like just having it just be us, we can turn the business off whenever and go for longer vacations. So, but what ended up happening was we just sort of worked ourselves nearly to death, right? It's like there was too many responsibilities and trying to keep the marketing going. And the couple times that I did kind of back off a little bit on marketing to go get my private pilot's license and stuff like that, things kept going from momentum for a little bit, but after so many months that like dies off and it takes a little bit longer to get that momentum going again. And so I learned that. And that's when I started Flipping Junkie blog, is when I started building back up after getting my pilot's license, was the reason for posting, about the 34 weeks of getting back the business going again. And so we more recently, I'd started hiring people and getting over the fact that I can find people that can go to appointments and do better than me in getting contracts. Cause it was the big fear, like no one's going to care as much as me and they're not going to be able to get these houses in a contract. And, it's just not true. And it was a false belief that I had for so long, and getting over that's been huge. And you find that hiring people and scaling your business then does allow you to go and take vacations and do things. And, it's an uphill battle, and there's a lot of work involved in doing that and learning how to lead a team and stuff like that. But I wish we had realized that before, right?
Yeah.
Years ago. And
well,
there's so much I can like touch on over here. I really want to get your wife on our podcast, number one, because you tell me 5 kids, and I like, there's sometimes I have trouble with 2 because we're trying to grow our business as you did. Yep. And I feel like I'm taking too much time away from the kids and yada, yada, yada. And we're exploding too fast. So yeah, I'll be calling your wife. Okay. We're going to have a lot of fun.
She's been getting out of her comfort zone too and doing videos for the YouTube channel and stuff. So she's
maybe I'll create a YouTube channel with her called Mothers of Flipping.
So you touched on, something here is that, so you have this business rocking and rolling, right? But now you've created yourself. A lot of people, they get set in a job and they have a 9 to 5 and they may never get to the point they want, but at least, at 5 o'clock, they turn it off and they go away. And sometimes you start to create your business with the point that you want something better, but you find yourself so in the business that you're working 95 hours a week, and you're barely sleeping because you're up and you're going and it's always on you. What made you really hit that point and say, like, yeah, we got to find a way, because we want to create a lifestyle, not something that's going to just take us and run and have the business run us.
Yeah, I think it was seeing the kids growing up and wanting to be there more, and and then I was flying too, and I wanted to go flying more often and do some of the fun things, and not just it's like I feel like we got to keep doing this over and over again, and it's not scaling, and it's not setting up a thing where we have more of the real financial freedom, where we're not having to work so much. It's not a real business like this. And we've been doing a lot of owner financing and stuff like that, and that builds up and that does provide, nice long-term income and everything. And it's great. And we're going to be doing a little bit more of that now. We kind of slowed down when Dodd-Frank happened, but, came up. But I guess what made us do that was just like realizing that, at a certain point you kind of get, tired of having to do everything, wear the different hats and the ups and downs, because that's what was happening for so many years was, and my dad and our mentor would always say that that's kind of what it was, is like you're wearing the different hats. So you got to put on your marketing hat and you got to get all the deals. So you get the deals, you get a couple deals, right? You take off your marketing hat, you put on your rehabbing hat, and you rehab the property. Then you got to take that off and put the salesperson hat on, get the property moved, and transaction hat to close the transaction, all that kind of stuff. And you can't wear more than one hat, right? Well, maybe you can, but it's not going to be pretty. So, you have, when you do that, so you take the marketing hat off and you're putting the rehab hat on. Well, that marketing hat's not going to come back on until you're done with all those things. Mm-hmm. And so then you're back to square one, having to try to get the deals again. And so it's just finding a way to keep those things going, like systematize the business. And it's something that when we did get started, I have binders with old plans and notes and goals. When we first got started, where we were talking about systematizing everything and writing out everything that we're doing to try to do that. But we never finished it, and they just kind of sat there. And So I look back and say, man, that's a missed opportunity. That was like, we were headed in the right direction, but I think we had those fears again. Like it was, do we really want to have somebody come work with us? And now we do. We've got a great team, awesome team. And I couldn't imagine it, if we didn't have that right now.
So what was the catalyst to get you actually getting you into systematizing your business? Like you said, you had written it down, you were sort of in that direction, but then you start getting into the grind and you're like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm the best person at this. I'm the only person that can go on the appointments. I'm the only person that can take the phone calls. But what tripped you over that?
And maybe with that
spot?
What was your first hire? Who was your first hire?
Yeah. So the catalyst was Lead Propeller. And, those are the real estate investor websites that we created. Mm-hmm. And then that stems back from whenever I was ramping the business back up and I started flipping Junkie blog. Most of my leads were coming from my website. And so people saw that and were saying, hey, I want a website too. Where can I get one? Where'd you get yours? And I said, well, I built mine. I'm a software developer, from before, and I just built my own. And enough people had asked me for a long enough time that I was like, you know what, let me build this out so they can choose a template and have an editor where they can make changes. Because that was always the thing. I didn't want to do one-off websites, right?
Yeah.
And this way people could do that. And so I was building that up and did most of the coding for the initial version of that and was launching that. And I actually made my first hire as somebody to help me with that before I did for the flipping company. And I think we brought on Melissa's brother, who now works for me in Lead Propeller.
Nice.
But we had him being the acquisitions person, was the first person to come on and help us out with the flipping business while I was trying to grow the software business as well. And it got to the point where I'm taking calls to look at houses, but I'm also in the middle of coding something. And I found myself sometimes even maybe being slightly rude on the phone. So like, well, what's the address? How much you want to sell for? Okay. I'll be over there like 2:00. And I wasn't taking care of business.
Got it.
And so it's like, hey, I got to choose. I can't do both of these things well. And so I've got to figure something out. And so it was like, well, let's grow this team. And so we started hiring and, tried working with Joss's acquisitions and that went okay, but we weren't getting deals. So we had the marketing going, we weren't getting deals. So we had to switch and we brought on Grayson, who's been awesome. He was acquisitions. He moved into kind of being, it's like a chief operating officer, maybe building the team. So helping build the team and grow the company. And it's been awesome. So now we have lead intake and then acquisitions, and then he's growing the team. So the next person will be the dispositions person to help with the wholesaling of it.
That's amazing.
And now, how many years have you had these hires? What I'm trying to package here is that you built a business over 15 years, and now you're finding
right.
just
it hasn't
yourself.
It hasn't been that long. So this team is almost 2 years, year and a half, I think, 2 years.
And in those 2 years, how has your business grown?
Well, our goal this year is 108 deals. And that's people are like, well, why 108? Why not just 100? Right? That's a weird goal. But
very auspicious.
It was very ambitious, but six.
No, I said auspicious. 108.
What's that?
108 is a very auspicious number.
So 6 wholesale deals a month and then 3 flips. Because Melissa loves the design of the rehabs and loves doing that. So, but every time we look at numbers of the deals and how much we made on flips versus wholesales, there's not big of that huge of a difference anymore because the market's so hot, like you said, in San Antonio. It's like the people are paying a crazy amount for properties.
Correct.
And so wholesaling makes a lot of sense right now. And so, but so that's been good. So it's been our goal and to grow the team to be able to do that. And we're getting there. We're a little bit behind, but I have full faith that we'll be able to do it by the end of the year.
That's
It's just the whole thing that we've got to grow to do it, right? So.
Yeah, right.
Yes, and grow responsibly. Again, I want to impart to our listeners. Yeah, you hear Danny is like, I'm going to do 108 deals this year. Listen to the podcast again if you have that scared feeling because you want to be at 108. Grow responsibly. Danny took 14 years to get to where he is. And it's through growing responsibly, through learning, through making mistakes. Just take that first step.
Yeah, people want the immediate gratification. So they, okay, well, I want to do 100 deals too, and they've done one maybe 17 years ago. Yeah, so but so you can have that goal, but you need to set up the system. And so now, some good context would be that you're in a super competitive market, right? So you're going after 6 wholesales, 3 flips a month, which is awesome. Yeah. How are you determining what route do you go with each property? How do you determine, okay, well, this one will flip or this one will wholesale, or are you targeting differently for those? And maybe how do you make yourself stand out in such a hot market?
Yeah, so we just have to do a lot of different things. So we do the website. Obviously, I have my site ranking organically for almost 2,000 keywords. We do PPC, pay-per-click stuff through AdWords and Bing. I do a lot of direct mail. I'm not even sure how much, but I know it's very expensive. It's thousands and thousands of pieces, 15 or 20,000 a month, I think. So it's a lot, and we don't really target. I mean, some of the direct mail we do target the areas that are more wholesale type properties versus fix and flip. But on the fix and flip, we have a sweet spot where it's just below our median house price. But it's a sweet spot where the properties end up with multiple offer situations, and it's where the bulk of the buyers are. And so we stick to those for that. The other things, the expensive properties, I don't like those. We wholesale them. And then the lower end properties, we wholesale as well. So, and then if it's something in the sweet spot, but it's got foundation problems, because we have, I think it's called black gumbo soil or something like that. It's like a clay soil. So it holds water and it expands, and then it dries. We have droughts. And so it shrinks up, and so foundations are like this. And so if there's foundation problems, now we just say we're not going to deal with it because of the unknowns. You can level it, but then you've got disconnects for plumbing. Yep. And sometimes they got a tunnel, and that gets very expensive. So so that's one of the criteria. And I still, I can see Melissa still talking to me about that and going, these houses with the foundation problems, no more. After seeing the bills and stuff like that, I was like, we're not doing these anymore. They're going to be wholesale. That's like it's a no-brainer, no more. Yep.
Well, we do a lot of that work. And what happens here with those problems is that you can't always see what you have until you're into it. And so you budget, but your budget's only good until the day you show up. And then you start exposing things, and it never ends. And that's usually the point. Sometimes you get lucky, but very, very rarely do you get lucky.
Right. Yeah. And it's, I was going to say, it's amazing sometimes, sometimes on some of the little bit cheaper properties, sometimes we'll leave it slightly off. Mm-hmm. If it's just like maybe an inch or 2 over a longer run. I mean, it's kind of noticeable. It's a little bit off. And I remember one time we had 2 houses like this, and we decided, let's just do a real quick cleanup, and you're going to cause more problems than not by moving the house around. Mm-hmm. And so we just kind of left it. And one of them was like way off, because we were like, if we can't sell, there's some sort of problem with selling this and getting a loan on it, we'll just owner finance it. But we got both of them under contract. So the one, I don't know, it was like a crazy amount, like 6 inches off or something, or like some pretty high number. We didn't know. We never really checked. We let them do their inspection. They checked. They didn't say a thing. They showed us the report and didn't say a thing, and the bank didn't care. I don't know. It was crazy. And then the other property that was off like half an inch, they were complaining about it.
Oh no!
Wanting it leveled out and stuff like that. It was like, so you never know. But
no, you don't. Right. It's all about the buyer. I mean, you take your chances. Yeah, I mean that's just crazy. But actually, I want to go back and talk a little bit more about your businesses, because you keep on mentioning and
Lead Propeller,
Flipping Junkie podcast, and then
blog,
like your blog and everything, and the YouTube channel that your wife is doing. Let's talk a little bit about that, because it sounds like these are sort of like part of the foundation of your flip business. So just tell us a little bit about each and every one of them.
Sure. So I'll start with the Flipping Junkie, blog. Like I mentioned, I had that time where I took several months off to get a pilot's license. So I was still doing, managing rehabs and stuff like that, but wasn't doing the marketing. And so the business sort of slowed down a lot. And after I got the pilot's license and I started building it back up. But I needed accountability, and I needed somebody to kind of push me to do it, because I had just gotten my private pilot's license. All I wanted to do was go and fly all the time, which is very expensive as well. So I was on Bigger Pockets, and I had looked at other blogs, and I had Flipping Junkie, and I had posted a couple of the first blogs were like, like what to bring with you when you're looking at a house, stuff like that. But nobody was like showing up to it. Like nobody really cared, right? It was just like stuff you find all over the place. And so I looked at the different types of blogs, and I was like, well, there's either people showing things like this, helpful tips, or there's people showing their deals that they're doing, like the before and afters, the fix up, like what they're changing, the cabinets and stuff like that. But they don't ever talk about how they got those deals, and the numbers and stuff. And I was like, well, I can show all that stuff and allow that to be my accountability to be able to, like, because I know I'm telling people this week I'm going to do this, right? These are all the marketing things I'm going to do and all that kind of stuff. And then so I started doing that, and I posted on Bigger Pockets. There's like a long post about like building my business back up to 30 deals a year or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it talks about that. And so I started posting every week, and I would post all the marketing I did. And then every call that came in, I documented on that blog, like every week, with like the numbers that they were asking, how I analyzed it, why I decided to go look at it, and all that kind of stuff. And so I just documented 34 weeks of that, and it kept me motivated and kept me excited. And it was awesome to see how much it helped people, and that kind of like helped it to really became something where I started it, and it was like motivation for me. But then it became awesome because it's like, hear about all these people saying, you don't know how much this is helping me, because like the big thing that I heard over and over again was, we had no idea that you had to look at that many properties or make that many offers to get a deal.
Yeah.
And it was like that whole thing. You hear it's a numbers game. To actually see it in action, like, you think, well, I got a couple calls. You think I should be able to get a deal out of it, and you stress out because you can't make a deal out of the 2 calls. No, because in the things, if you go back and look, like I would post like the deal and stuff, and I would say, there's no way this could be a deal for me, pass next. I just wrote it off quick, and then just like, I need to get more calls. I'm not getting enough deals, so I need to get more calls. I need to do more marketing. And it's as simple as that, really. I mean, simple, but not easy, right? So it's a lot of work.
Well, that's, that's what people, especially new flippers and wholesalers, anybody in the real estate industry in general needs. They need like a nice little window into the business, and that's what you provided them. And I'm sure you've helped people's businesses like 10-fold, 100-fold just by providing that window. Awesome.
Well, you're structured too now, and I think going back to flying planes, it would probably be good to talk about the checklist, because there's a checklist that you just do every single time, and it's repetitive. Even if you just come back out and you want to go back, you do the checklist again, and that's almost like the structure you put together here, is that you have a structure, you follow it, you just keep following it, repetitive, because it just needs to be human nature.
Yeah, don't get sidetracked on all the shiny objects, right? It's like, put your plan in place. And keep working it and give it enough chance to actually work instead of running off and trying something different. It's like sending direct mail out once, not getting many calls and saying it doesn't work and trying something else.
Yeah.
Thinking there's a magic bullet, right? Like there's, you hear people talk about direct mail and getting leads online and stuff like that so much is because it works, right? And if you don't have success with it, maybe you need to tweak it and find out, or you're just not trying it long enough.
Yeah, longevity.
Or getting enough touches on each person that you're mailing to make it work. But really, you don't need to go out and find the new special thing that's going to get you all these magical deals all of a sudden. It's the stuff that works. You just need to work it. Like,
it's great.
Make your plan. It's written up on our board for the software side, or not the software side. The house flipping team over here on our whiteboard says, plan your work and then work your plan.
Plan your work and work your plan.
That's awesome. I'll write that down.
We're both writing that down.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. So your business is rocking and rolling right now. What's something that you could do better to improve within your business right now?
Focus.
Sure. What are you doing to improve that? I know we talked a little bit about that in the beginning, but give us some actionable steps, because I of course am horrible at that myself.
Yeah, for sure. So we have lead propellers that we're constantly improving and planning and hiring developers to work on and growing that business. That business has grown a lot more than the flipping team has. And so focus, I can start with Melissa and I back last October, after being in a mastermind meeting that you guys are in now, and we made the decision. Actually, Melissa, brought it up, and I'm glad that she's the one that had the idea, because she said, how about, because we talked about the fact that you feel like you're doing way too much, and she's like just as valuable all these years in the flipping business as I was. It wasn't just me; it was both of us, and I couldn't do it without her. But after this meeting, she had the idea. It's like, well, why don't I just run the flipping business and then you run the software business so you can focus, and then all I have to do is be in the weekly meetings and consult and stuff like that. So that's what we do. I'm in the meetings, and then they can come ask me a question if they have one that's specific, but usually they handle all of it. Like it's crazy now. I see the deal numbers, and I've never seen the house. I've never seen any of it. And it's awesome. And it's allowed me to focus on the software side, growing that company. And so that helped a lot with focus. And then I'm going back to, like working on myself. Right. So it's like the planning and just, being good about focusing on what I'm doing. And one of the books I just finished rereading was called Essentialism. And it's a really good book, Essentialism. And I think there's a diagram in there that is just, it says it very clearly. It's like one of those pictures worth 1,000 words, but it shows like a circle with little, like 1-inch arrows off of it and all the different directions around the circle going out. Then it shows a circle with one arrow going up. That's the combination of all those other little arrows. And it's like, when you have focus on the essential, this is the progress. When you've got little bits everywhere, like there's no progress, right? And you're pulled in all these different directions. And obviously the book explains a little bit more about all that stuff. So it's like, okay, well, I have to first figure out what's essential. And there's a question that I go back to that I think a lot of coaches ask all the time, is like, what am I supposed to do? I've got all these things. I don't know what to do. What's the most important one thing? Not priority. Like what's the one thing that you need to do, right? If you can only do one thing right now, what is it? Like, what's the most important? And then, planning per week. So I just started recently planning per week, and Terry Berger, my friend, had told me about the Brian Buffini show. I think it's
awesome podcast.
Man, I started listening to that and just digging in, because he also really likes Jim Rohn, the Brian Buffini. And so his podcast, he sounds like Jim Rohn. Like you can tell he's listened to him for a long time, but just, the way he talks and everything, but it's business, and it's, advice and all that kind of stuff. But some of the interviews that I listened to, it was incredible. And what I've implemented out of what I've heard from that podcast, just over the last couple of weeks is one, I've got a calendar, and it's the calendar in our kitchen that my daughter Sophie colored and drew all the pictures for the month, and was complaining that nobody ever uses it, and so it was still 4 months behind, nobody had. And so I was like, I'm going to use that calendar. I have a big one at the office I could take in there, but I was like, no, I'm going to use the small one that's hers, and so I got that. And I got the little color coded circle stickers, like a pack of where there's 7, 8 or 9 different colors. And I'd stick those on the side and put something next to them of all the things that are important to me that I'm trying to do, for life, not just business. Right. And so it's, just different things like fun, one sticker is fun. So if I do something fun for myself, I put it on there, because we all have to do that from time to time. And then something with the kids. So if I do something that day with the kids, I'll put the sticker on. Work out, meditate, have a green smoothie, the stuff for health and everything else. So it's really good, because it's keeping me accountable. And the bigger thing out of that, though, is the motivation, the reward. And this is a big thing that we've been talking a lot about here, because with the software side of things, I'm going to try not to get too much on a tangent. But it all relates. And I think it's helpful, because it's what we're dealing with right now. It's what we're working through. So we have Lead Propeller, and we're growing that, right? And we also are working on a CRM system, which is going to be amazing. I cannot wait to have this thing for our business and for everybody else to be able to use. But by the end of the year, we're going to launch this. And so that project we've been working on for, it'll almost be a year now. I think it's 9 months or something. we're rebuilding. So we had REIMobile, which is a CRM system, but we're rebuilding it from the ground up, and it's going to be called something else. And it's a very ambitious project, but it's like, this is what I want. Like, this is the ultimate. And so in order to do that, we've got software developers and everything. And we've been learning that business as well, like how to manage all that project management for that. And it has a lot of tie-ins with the flipping business. And so that's where I'm going with this. But, basically we were having developers work on this huge, very ambitious project, right? Software project. And it's like, we need it done by October, November, right? That's when we need to launch this. So work your butts off. Let's keep going. Like work, and get this thing done. And it was like, the motivation like started out with everybody super pumped, right? And like, let's do it. Like super high power meetings and stuff. Like we're ready to go, motivated. But that quickly tanked, like after a number of months, right? And it's like slows down. It's like, where's all the motivation now? It's like kind of disappointing. Like, I don't know. I feel like we're not making as much progress as we should. And so I met a guy that runs a software company in San Antonio, and he met with me for lunch, and I talked to him, and he was gracious enough to let me come back with my CTO and talk with him some more. But we talked about this, right? We were talking about like, hey, this is what we're dealing with. And he says, yeah, well, I mean, you need to do 2-week sprints. You need to do 2-week sprints. It's like you give smaller tasks that can be completed within the 2 weeks. And, that way, not that you're getting more done, but because they get to see that they're accomplishing something and getting that reward and getting that motivation, that feedback, and feeling like they're getting somewhere, right? Instead of this like long goal that's like way in the future, which seems impossible. And you see how it fits with flipping, right? Because it's like the goal is like, I'm going to have freedom and, have these houses and be flipping all these houses and stuff like that. But there's so much in between. And I guess it gets right back into like what you were talking about, with like just focusing on the first steps. But, so breaking that out, and on the Buffini podcast, he had interviewed Brian Moran, I think. And he wrote a book called The 12-Week Year.
Yep. I heard that one.
And that's like, not having the year goal, but I mean, you have the year goal, but really focusing on each quarter and just saying, because things change, right? We all get sidetracked. We find other things become priority. And so when you shrink it down to that, and I just started reading that book, so I don't have a lot to talk about on it, but it's one of the things that I'm doing to help, with management. And it's good for me too, because I felt like I had so many things pulling me in so many directions, and having that motivation for myself. I know I'm doing things and making progress, but I wasn't feeling like I was rewarding myself, or like,
that's great.
Like accepting that I'm making all this progress. Yep. You know what I mean?
I mirror image. That's exactly what we're going through. I like, even yesterday, I get to the end of the day and I'm just like, I know I did things that were awesome, but they went by so fast that I didn't I go to the end of my day. I'm just like, oh, I didn't do that 1 or 2 thing. And like, all of a sudden my day is just like, it's shot because I didn't get those 2 things done, but I got those other 10 things done. So it's like giving yourself credit for what you do accomplish.
Yeah.
It's really important.
And the thing that's actually been good with us, because you get yourself so used to that path. Okay, January 1st, I'm starting my things and getting by the end of the year, it's always off track. So we've actually started implementing a 30-day thing. And what's been good for this is like, we just started like at a random day. It started like June 23rd. So it wasn't like the beginning of the month or the end of the month. It was just completely random. And it's broken up our sequence of, going by the month or going by the year. And, but then I heard that Brian Buffini, I was like, wow, that's smart. Incredible.
Smart guy.
It's just incredible. The thought process by Brian Moran.
Well, since we're sort of going in this direction, and this is a question we ask everybody, what is your big why? Why do you do this?
Why? How many whys do I have? It's mostly family. Like, I've done exercises at conferences where they have you close your eyes, and it's like the first thing that comes to mind. So it's my kids and my family. And so it's like building that generational wealth and then becoming that person that's capable of doing that, so I can teach my kids that they can do whatever they want, and to show them that path. And so that's what drives me.
See, that's amazing goals right there.
Yeah, I love
like
it.
being able to teach your children what you do.
Would that fall in line with your end game in real estate?
Oh yeah, for sure. Because really, like I said, we're going to start transitioning. I'm starting to talk about it with the team. I haven't hammered it out, but we haven't fleshed out all the details. But we're going to start. The market changes all the time. It's not always going to be up. Things change, and we rode through the 2008 ordeal, which was pretty crazy. Yeah. But, and that's why I had like mentors and people I looked up to saying, hey, there's no shame, Danny, in going and getting a job again and not just staying out of because nobody knew where the bottom was, right?
Yeah.
It was scary. And to have those people telling me that, and I was like, I thought you were supposed to make money when things were going down, right? I thought that was the thing, right? So I was kind of surprised. And like, maybe that was their tactics. Like, hey, less competition. I'll tell Danny just to.
Oh my God. Yep.
Go.
Yeah. So, but I was ruined for working for anybody at that point. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I need to just buy it this much cheaper, and to be in San Antonio, to be all fair, was, we didn't have a huge bubble either. We didn't have crazy appreciation like California and stuff, Florida. Right. Like we didn't have that as bad here because our property taxes, I guess, were much higher because we don't have a state income tax. And so I'm thinking maybe that kept it from becoming too much of a bubble. So we did have a decrease, but it wasn't a crazy one. But I lost track of my train of thought.
It was enough to hurt. Like the crash was enough to hurt. So like going through kind of like where your life has taken you, where do you see yourself in like 5 years, sort of like like your end game?
Yeah. So with the market, and I'm not doom and gloom. I hope it takes, 5, 6, 7 years before it just like maybe straightens out and doesn't go down or anything. But, hopefully it just keep going and going and going. But also for long-term, for just long-term wealth building, doing more rentals and doing more, like you guys doing multifamily stuff and, maybe not doing that. I don't know if I want to do multifamily, but, like rentals and owner financing, I love that stuff. Like I just love seeing, and for the longest time when we were doing that years ago, like building up more of those, we had what was called the magic number on our whiteboard. And that was the combination of all the income we were getting from those long-term investments. And that number, we just kept adding that number up. Every time we added a new one, we'd add that amount of money it was bringing in to that magic number. And we had debt on those properties, but we didn't subtract. We weren't putting just cash flow. We were putting on, like, once these are paid off, how much is that going to be? Because it's more motivational, right? Yeah. Maybe we're not getting that much in cash flow right now, but it was like, wow, seeing that number grow is, so that's what we're going to be probably looking at doing a little bit more of. And I think that helps you ride out to the tough times, because then you have some assets that if you need cash influx, you can sell those, stuff like that. But
maybe not to sidetrack too long, but you've mentioned it a few times. Would you give us, for everyone, and just give us a quick synopsis of how a typical owner finance deal, I know they're not typical, but just give us a short of a owner finance deal.
Yeah, so for us in our market, and property values have gone up in the lower end. It used to be where we could pick them up for 20 or 30 grand and put like 10, 15K into it and then owner finance it for like 69 or 79, which is like incredible, and sell them at like 10%. And so, and the number's a little bit higher now. So on both sides, like on the buy and then when we owner finance it. But, if we don't buy them ourselves and owner finance them, we have a lender that we found where he's okay with doing a wrap, so he'll do longer term. And the way we've structured our owner finance always in the past is not for cash flow now. It was more of when we would get one, it was like, well, how much can we sell this for with a down payment of like $5,000? When we sell it, owner finance, down payment of $5,000. What's that remaining loan amortized out at 20 or 30 years? What's that payment to us? And then our loan, we want to structure to be as short as possible, but cover that, like be covered by that. So we're not cash flowing, but it's paying off much quicker at much less interest.
Yep, amazing.
And so, like 8-10 years. So we end up, if it's a 30-year note that we sell, not the note, but we create a 30-year note when we sell it, and the people pay off in 8 years, our underlying one, we had 22 years of payments, and it's like just the thrill of knowing that that's coming and it's not going to be always just a small cash flow, it's like, so we're giving up the cash flow now for much more in the future.
For higher return later.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you for that.
Yep.
Do you actually, I want to add into my show notes, do you have like a podcast that explains owner financing, or do you have like something we could point our...
I don't know that I did one myself, but I interviewed a guy that's also in San Antonio, Mitch Steven, and there's a podcast episode with him. And if you have more interest in it, listen to that one. It's pretty good.
That's great.
I'll point our listeners that way, because I'm sure that, it's a great play for any investor out there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're coming down to a few questions we always love to get out, but you've given us a lot of starting points. Give us one starting point, because we've had a lot for new investors out there. Give them one actual step today that they can go out there and do.
I think the step is the one that you actually said, and it's one that I think people should do. And it's, if you're very, very beginner at this and you're learning a lot of things, you're listening to podcasts, it's awesome. But you can listen to the podcast in the car. Well, you probably are listening to it in your car. So that's good. Just listen to the podcast and drive around. What I was going to say was step away from the computer. Like if you're on the forums all the time reading all this stuff or studying courses, listen to the podcasts while you're driving around these areas of town. Get to know all these areas. Look for where rehabs are happening. Look where there's a lot of investor activity.
It's great.
And it's not hard to do, and it's not really getting out of your comfort zone too much. While you're doing that, though, you do need to get out of your comfort zone. So write down addresses of properties that look vacant or run down. And then when you see one being rehabbed, meaning there's like a roll-off dumpster in the driveway, and there's people hauling stuff out of the house and putting it in, stop and talk to the contractors, get their cards, make notes afterwards of talking to them, how you felt about them. Did they smell like alcohol? Were they talking too much? And how was the job site? Was it well kept and everything? Like they kept a clean job site and all that kind of stuff, very professional, because you're going to need contractors most likely. If not, if you're wholesaling, but you still need to learn like pricing and stuff like that. So it's always good to get all this. And that doesn't take too much getting out of your comfort zone to do that, but it's a good start.
That's great. Thank you.
So, and again, you've given us so much, but like, give us one final like statement or words to live by.
Work on yourself.
Nice.
That's great. So if people are trying to find out more about you, some of the platforms you have going on, what would be a best way to find you?
Yeah, the Flipping Junkie podcast on iTunes. It's also on Stitcher. So if you're not an Apple person, so the Junkie podcast. Yep.
Cool.
Great.
Well, thank you.
Oh, and then one more place too. We started because of this whole transition that we've made in thinking of, like building the team and having the true freedom. We did start a Facebook group, and I encourage everybody to join. It's a private group, but just ask for an invite and, just go to the group. It's Flip Pilot. So look for the Flip Pilot group on Facebook and then just ask to be invited and we'll let you in there. We're just verifying that it's not people looking to do marketing and stuff like that, because we want that in the group. So that's the reason why it's a private group. But it's for people to get together and share, the things that they need help with, and then what they're finding works well for building a business where you're. And the reason why it's called Flip Pilot is because I love flipping and aviation, but also because it's like the 30,000 foot view of your business, right?
Yeah.
So it's like being somebody that's more focused on the 30,000 foot view than being down wearing all the hats. And so that's what it's all about. So I encourage everybody to go in.
Awesome.
Oh, we're definitely going to jump on that as soon as we get off this call, because that's definitely what Jason and I need more of, is that overview.
The high level view.
Yeah.
Well, Danny, incredible. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to chat with us today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Danny.
Yeah.
Again, this is the REI Foundation podcast with Jason and Peely. Thank you so very much. So grateful for you and so grateful for our listeners. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you too.
Hi, everybody. Peely here from the REI Foundation podcast. Looking to rev up your wholesaling or house flipping business? Go now to houseflippinghq.com. Jason and I are part of a house flipping family, a community created by Justin Williams. Would we be where we are without him and without his community and his mentors? Probably not. Justin and his team basically handed us personalized shortcuts and exact strategies that have made us explode in today's market. So if you're looking to take the next step, go to houseflippinghq.com right now. Again, this is Peely from the REI Foundation podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we are so grateful for you. Have a great day. Bye.
Thanks for tuning into the REI Foundation podcast. Check back next time for more awesome tips and strategies to launch your new you in real estate.